Saudi Arabia is pushing hard into Asia, ASEAN, and the broader global south in areas such as infrastructure, tourism, logistics, green energy, sports, and AI. Now, to get a sense of how Saudi is shaping money, jobs, and growth in Asia, we speak now to Stephen Groff, who is governor of National Development Fund of Saudi Arabia, on the sidelines of Momentum 2025. That's a development finance conference in Riyadh. Stephen, welcome to the show. Now, you've said that NDF is now judged on its impact on non-oil GDP and jobs. But what does the real economy in Saudi Arabia look like on the ground? And are we seeing a structural break away from oil cycles, or is it just a well-timed boom?
Well, thank you, Angela, for having me today. I think what we're seeing here is truly a transformational change in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I mean, very much the Vision 2030, which is now entering its 10th year of implementation, really built around the idea that the country needs to diversify its areas of growth and diversify the economy to build in resilience and to build in in order so that the country can continue to grow with the oil economy, and as the oil economy becomes less of a critical part of this economy. So very much what we're seeing here is a transformation and not just a well-timed boom.
Now, how sustainable is Saudi's non-oil growth ambitions if we move into softer oil prices and also softer global demand environment over the next few years?
Well, I think that, obviously, all countries are susceptible to global economic cycles, and Saudi Arabia is not unique in that regard. But I think what we're seeing with the kinds of investments that are happening across all the sectors that you mentioned in your opening are really aimed at limiting the downside risk over time. And so what we're doing at the National Development Fund is supporting investments across a range of different sectors, all of which are aimed at, again, smoothing out those economic cycles, providing different poles of growth in the Saudi economy that will complement the oil economy over time. But we have seen significant growth in the non-oil economy in the country over the last 10 years, and I see no reason as to why that would not continue and that diversification would not continue. And indeed, that's what NDF is all about, is supporting that diversification.
Now, Stephen, you've sat on both sides of the table, both at the ADB in Manila and now running $100+ billion Saudi Development Fund. Now, in terms of the global development finance architecture, what exactly is Saudi Arabia doing differently?
Well, I think what Saudi Arabia is doing differently is, I think what we're seeing globally is we're seeing a disruption of global trade markets. We're seeing disruption of traditional relationships between trading partners. Saudi Arabia is I think, very, very successful in managing that economic landscape and that geopolitical landscape, and then using also the significant resources it has at home to invest in its own growth and its own development, but not doing that in isolation of other countries. I think Saudi Arabia is doing investment globally. I think you see that through a number of different platforms that the country is supporting. And so what we're doing at NDF is really focused here on the Saudi economy. But again, the country is doing a lot globally to help build those relationships and maintain those relationships in a productive and resilient and long-term fashion.
And speaking of those building relationships, you're no stranger to ASEAN and Asia as well. When you compare Saudi's Vision 2030 transformation with the growth models of India or countries in Southeast Asia, where do you see the most striking similarities, and also where are they different?
Well, I think the similarities are all in ambition. I mean, I think you see in many countries across Southeast Asia a significant ambition when it comes to economic transformation, when it comes to improvements in governance, improvements in economic management, and in reasonably stable levels of growth. I mean, again, everyone is subject to economic cycles, but reasonably stable levels of growth over the last couple of decades. I think where Saudi Arabia differs is, the long-term perspective that it takes. I think you saw great success in economic growth in China over the last 30 or 40 years. And that's a consequence of a long-term commitment and a long-term view. And Saudi Arabia has seen that and is endeavoring to follow that path. I think you've seen that in a couple countries in the region. South Korea obviously is notable, as is China. But again, taking that long-term view, making investments that don't have short-term returns but have long-term returns, and looking to do that again sustainably and consistently over a longer period of time.
Stephen, thank you so much for your insights. I've been chatting with Stephen Groff, who is Governor of National Development Fund of Saudi Arabia.